and welcome to another episode of the On Trade Network sessions. Really excited about my guest tonight because he's a top bloke and he happens to know a few things about the beer industry and the on trade in general. Ben Lockwood, the on trade marketing manager at Brewdog. Good evening, Ben.
You flatter me, Ross. Good evening. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, not too bad. Really appreciate you coming on and having a drink with me and having a chat. So Ben has been in the industry a very long time, and we go a fair way back, I think, in time, Ben. But if you want to just let people know a little bit about you and your background.
Yeah, it must be 10 years, at least 10 years, back to the Brains and Nicholson's days, I think. So I've been in hospitality for 20 years. So I unofficially ran my first pub when I was 17 on a dodgy back street at Wakefield, where the landlord thought I was 18 and he thought he could give me the keys legally for the day. And then I was running pubs all over really for like 4 or 5 years, and then dropped on a job at Mitchells and Butlers at the White Horse, Parsons Green, which was just epic. You know, I had 4 years there, best pub in London still in my eyes, although I'm a bit biased. And then ended up at Nicholson's pubs for 4 years as marketing manager there, where I kind of started doing loads of stuff on Cascale with you, and we drove the Cascale agenda there massively. Loads of exciting stuff, some great people working at Nicholson's pubs, some of the best people I've ever worked with. Did a bit for High Street, O'Neill's, Sizzling Pubs, and then 4 years as beer and cider buyer at M&B. So just shy of 2,000 pubs, 14 brands at the time, I think. No idea how many it is now. And then joined Brewdog 2.5 years ago as on-trade marketing manager for the UK. So not the bars, so basically marketing for everyone that we sell beer to, not beer that we sell ourselves, essentially. So that's me in a nutshell.
Yeah, no, and I'm sure you're a fairly modest person, but you talk to a lot of people in the industry about and mention your name, and people will sort of say that you really had an impact, certainly in your days beer and cider buyer at M&B in helping grow the range of beers that people see in bars in terms of cask and craft, and you really had a great input there and really drove that category on. So a lot of us out there have got a lot to thank you for, because you certainly helped me in my time at Brains to push the category forward and to get our beers out into a wider distribution around the UK. So I guess beer's your passion, yeah?
Beer and pubs, we kind of dropped on beer accidentally, but pubs is the passion. I mean, I love nothing more than pubs, and pubs of all sizes, all varieties. I believe that whether it's beer, whether it's a pub, there's a time and place for every occasion. So whether you're drinking with Joby at breaks and smashing the Guinness at the rugby, or you're drinking a community boozer in Wakefield, or you're doing Birmingham Beer Mile and you're going to all the tap rooms with the craft guys. There's just the flexibility and the variation of the on-trade is just phenomenal, and there is just no better feeling than being in that environment and everything it brings. And it's Mental Health Awareness Week, and I'm sure there's loads of us out there that experience that you get in the pub, you can't replace it anywhere. There's nothing that replaces it.
No.
We've lost it for so long, so I'm excited that things are open, beer gardens are back. I'm more excited that we get the insides back on Monday, and I'm fingers crossed, 21st of June, we can go back to normal. As we were saying before this call started, I just can't wait to be stood up in a pub with friends or people in the industry, just having a couple of pints, stood up, no restrictions, back to normal. And then, let's move forward from there and let's just carry on doing amazing things.
Yeah, and how do you feel about the prospect of the government, the government has set that deadline of the 21st of June? I mean, it certainly looks good at the moment. It looks like things are on the right track. Do you feel comfortable?
Well, data, not dates, right? So, the data tells us we can open on the 21st of June, if not earlier. So, we know it won't be earlier. So let's make sure it's not any later. Yeah, we should absolutely, test events. As I said to you, I was at the Crucible for the snooker final. Like 900 and so people there on the Monday night. Amazing atmosphere. Great to have like crowds back at something that was live. You've got those test events in Liverpool. No feedback so far. There's been any any spikes or anything there. So touch wood. So yeah, let's crack on and get to the 21st of June, and as many businesses that have managed to survive as possible. Like let's have the best summer ever and kick on in 2022.
Yeah, 100%. I think there's a lot of people share that sentiment, and that's why we're doing so well with this group. That kind of idea of let's all pull together and get us back to where we need to be. But
and fair play on the group as well. Well done. So I know it's not just you that's involved. There's a couple of bodies in the background that are helping, but it's an amazing outlet for pubs to just like use it for asking for help or advice, and not somewhere for us to sell as such, just somewhere for pubs to use as a forum to be like, guys, has anyone experienced this? What would someone do with this? Et cetera, et cetera. And testament and hats off to you for building it at a time when people really need it. And I think it's a really useful outlet for people. So the more people that sign up, the better, and the more pubs that get involved, the better.
Yeah, I agree, and thank you very much. I mean, it's been a passion. Quite selfishly, Ben, I needed somewhere as well. We all need that space to share and get that normality back in our lives. We like I said, we go back perhaps 10 years, and in that time, that social aspect of the job is absolutely why I'm in this industry. It's about being out there. It's those touch points of going to a great pub, whatever brand you're selling, seeing that in that venue because you've worked really hard to build that relationship to get it in there. And
100%. Yeah, 100%. You can. I'm a Brewdog now, but I absolutely adore Camden and what Jasper's built at Camden, and I've got a friend who works for Camden, and I can't wait to be having a pint in a pub that doesn't serve Brewdog and serves Camden. And likewise, we'd be together and we'd have done a Nicholson's Beer Festival, and there'd been other brewers, and you'd do a launch event and you'd all be there, and you're all helping each other. Everyone's pulling each other up in the on-trade industry. There's no one's fighting each other. It's all about helping each other up the ladder and making sure, and that's what I love about working in this trade. And I think you mentioned it on one of the other videos, I don't know whether it was with Mitch or Joby, but once you're in beer industry, you can't get out of it. Once you're in the on-trade, you can't get out of it. People might switch categories, but you don't really ever leave.
You never, well,
you're in.
I'm in it for life. That's it. That's me. I'm here for better or worse. But no, you're right, and it's an industry like no other in that sense. We're all selling something, but we're all working together, and you don't stab each other in the back. It's not cutthroat in that way. Everyone supports each other. So yeah, that's one of the real positives. What I wanted to ask you, because I just want to check if you're on brand or not. What are you drinking?
I'm on brand. You know what? I was going to open my fridge when we were on the call and pick something out, but I didn't want people to see my fridge. But I'm drinking Lost Lager. So if I was on brand, I'd be telling you about it being the world's first carbon negative lager. We use 20% surplus bread, and we'll get wasted from the supermarkets. And we everything that Brewdog have been doing around becoming carbon negative and sustainable. Less water, wind powered beer, etc., etc. So. Yeah, Lost Lager, it's great. New recipe came out January. We gave away 1 million cans, as you do. So we shut the website down for 3 days. I think it was the end of Jan. And if you went on brewdog.com, you automatically got thrown into the queue for a 4-pack where you just paid the £2 postage.
Yeah.
So we gave away 284,000 4-packs, which is 1 million cans. And we planted a tree for every 4-pack as well. So I think we're up to planting 1.2 million trees so far.
Mm.
And then for every Brewdog 4-pack sold in the off trade, we plant a tree as well.
I mean, that's brilliant, and it's I've seen a lot of the work that you guys have done around that carbon neutral and then carbon negative element, and it makes absolute sense. And a lot of people talk about it, but you guys really put your money where your mouth is. And I mean, I don't think Brewdog ever does anything small anyway. You don't ever do anything by halves.
It's very different to M&B, put it that way.
Yeah, well, and all the better for what you guys are doing. I am drinking Brewdog as well.
Best value for money beer in the supermarkets, I think.
Yeah, at 9.2%, it's a great beer. And I was saying before we started, I've always got one in the fridge because it's one of those beers that, and you guys do a lot of great beers. This one is the one that for me, if I've had a couple of beers in the day and I want a nice, it's a bit like if I'd have a glass of whiskey or a bourbon to end the night. This is the kind of beer that I would open and sit and sip.
Yeah,
So
you're not cracking open a 4-pack while you watch the rugby of that one.
no, I wouldn't know the score then, would I? So, but no, it's great. But
Not a bad thing. Not a bad thing if you're an England rugby fan at the minute. So that's the solution.
yeah, just don't watch.
Yeah.
But no, Lions coming up, so you got some of your boys do get the chance to redeem themselves. I think there's
Not as many as normal though.
yeah, 11 English, I think, 10 Welsh, and a good mix of Irish and Scottish. So it's
Yeah, I'm excited. And you've got the Euros for the pubs. You've got the Lions tour. It'd be good to get some sport back in the pubs and get people in for it and get them feeling as back to normal as we can as soon as possible. But I think sport's going to make a big difference because
huge.
That's another thing that the pubs are great for. There's not. I mean, it's good. It's good having people around the house for sport on TV. But you want to be in the pub if you're going to be anywhere that's not the game.
Yeah,
In my eyes.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, to be honest, I hardly watch football at home. I'll go to the pub to watch football. Rugby, both my kids are massive rugby fans, so actually I will sit and watch rugby with the kids here. But no, sport and pubs are forever linked. It's a pint and watch sport together with your mates. That's kind of what it is, isn't it?
Absolutely. I'll find out on Thursday whether I get drawn out of the ballot for a ticket for the Barnsley Swansea semi-final of the playoffs. So I've assumed it's a yes. So I've already booked 3 separate pubs for the afternoon before the game, and then 1 pub for after the game. So I'm going to make the most of that first day of indoor for sure. I can't wait to get back.
Yeah. So during the several lockdowns that we've had now, obviously you're in a business of scale, but a business that has quite a significant part of itself rooted in the on trade. How did you fare? How did you cope?
Yes, I mean, our co-founder James is quite active on LinkedIn and social media. So, he's been posting up virtually every day for 12 months or so now. So a lot of businesses lost a lot of revenue overnight. I think it's like 70 to 80%, 105 bars shut globally. Nobody buying beer, nobody importing beer from anywhere else. So we just had the off trade to kind of rely on. So it was tough, and we went through some painful decisions, and the business was really clear on like how can we protect as many jobs as possible, and at the same time just make sure there's a business at the end of it. So they've achieved both of those. There's a significant amount of jobs have been saved over the last year. The business is in a great place. The off trade has been phenomenal for us. Like there's no hiding away from that. But actually, like coming back to having the on trade open, I think the on trade is going to be massive for us at Brewdog over the next 12 months. We've got some real momentum. I think we were talking about it before. I think last time the on trade reopened, it was all about being safe and COVID secure and making sure you've got your one-way stickers in the right places, make sure you've got your disposable menus, your tomato sauce sachets, etc. I think now people are just ready to really go for it. And, let's drive some sales and volume. Let's get the 21st of June done. And I think we're in a really positive place. Conversations are exciting. And, we had to do a lot of, one of the big things at Brewdog has always been, and I think, what the last 12 months has given them opportunity to do is show it, but they've always thought that business is a force for good, which is why a lot of the initiatives in place, if you work at Brewdog for 5 years, you get a 4-week sabbatical. If you get an extra day of holiday every year for the first 4 years, I think it is. We're a national living wage employer, so the real living wage employer. So, and that goes through all the bars, and then we've also got a salary cap we can't recruit anyone from outside the business who on a wage that's X amount more than the lowest paid person. So it promotes internal growth. So there's always been a lot of those things happening, but they've not really been shouted about enough to be honest. And I think during the pandemic, the hand sanitizer, we produced 100,000 bottles of hand sanitizer, and you know, local charities and local hospitals and things like that took it from us. We used our delivery vans in Aberdeen to deliver school lunches, or school lunch, I think was like inverted commas, to people that needed it. We had an NHS Heroes pack. James made his book available for free for download. We did a production of canned water quite recently as well. So we canned a little water, because when you're going to hospital at the moment, you can't take any water in with you. So we did that in cans as well. So it's disposable, it's not reusable, all that kind of thing. And yeah, just like and just lots of things like that. And it feels so long ago that we were doing it, but there was quite a lot of initiatives that we launched, along with loads of other breweries as well, which is another thing about the on-trade. It's the most hit sector, but yet it's the one that's trying to help people the most. It's just baffling, you know, the government transit, and yet when the chips are down and things are looking bleak, every business and brewery is still trying to help everybody else. So we did a lot over that first 3 or 4 months of lockdown. And I think it's made people see us in a bit of a different light, if we're being totally honest. Less about the stunts, more about helping people. We had a rebrand as well, which has gone down phenomenally well. You know, we talk about it from a kind of anarchist to rebel to maverick. So the anarchist was the first version of Brewdog, where it was so cutting edge and so disruptive, and craft beer as a category didn't even really exist until Martin and James won that Tesco homebrew competition. We were the rebels, making lots of noise, driving tanks down Camden High Street, dropping taxidermy cats out of helicopters in London, you know, sending beer to Vladimir Putin and all those kind of things. And then now it's kind of like we're the mavericks, or we see ourselves as the mavericks, because we want to make sure this craft beer category continues to grow. So, you know, we need to lead that growth, and we want to be at the forefront of that. And we want to pull as many of these mainstream drinkers into the category as possible, because if more people don't enter the craft category, you're not going to grow. And then, you know, if we can grow that bubble, use the better word, but grow that bubble of craft beer drinkers and make it bigger, then if they enter at Brewdog, and Brewdog's their go-to on a daily basis, what are they experimenting with, you know, further down the line? So how do they move on to some of the smaller guys, and how do they feel comfortable? And there's still a lot of barriers with craft, you know. There's still a lot of perceptions out there that you've got to have a sleeve tattoo, you've got to have a beard, the can design is going to be wacky and not tell you anything about the liquid that you're buying. And, you know, they expect it to cost about $3,000 a pint. And they think it's going to be brewed with wizard tears and yak's milk and corn sweat and all that kind of things, because that's what they think craft beer is. So there's a lot of work to do on breaking barriers down, and we think we can be at the forefront of that, and it'll benefit everybody. But the carbon negative announcement in August was a huge one. And
yeah.
we count years in dog years, not human years. Brewdog is what I've learned over the last 2.5 years, and you know, it's definitely true. But we've just fast tracked that and really put our money where our mouth is. You know, we spent 6 to 9 months calculating all our carbon emissions, and we now take twice as much carbon out of the air as we emit. So if you drink Brewdog, you're doing your bit for the planet, and I think that's what people want, is that people don't want to be shamed into doing well for the planet. But if you can make it easy for them and say, drink this beer, buy this laundry detergent, you know, whatever it is it might be, and you're doing your bit, then I think, you know, that's something people can relate to. But it was tough. It was really tough. But touch wood, Brewdog's in a really good place, and I think we can do a lot in the on-trade over the next year or two.
Yeah, and I think, you know, the thing for me about Brewdog all the way through is, you know, the guys, James in particular probably got quite a lot of sort of tough press early on for being, you know, for the stunts and things, but they've always brewed good beer, and you can argue all day long about craft category and what is craft, and you know, all those kind of things. But for me, and I'm sure it's the same for you, it's about more people drinking great beer. And what the craft category did for beer was bring a lot of people over from that kind of standard lager category into new and exciting beers, and moving them through that beer journey, and opening up the wider category. And that can only be a good thing for our industry. So You know, Brewdog were absolutely instrumental in that in the UK. So
Yeah, and you know, and I think everything's a cycle, isn't it? You know, the beers that we were drinking, the category that dominated 80 years ago wasn't the category that dominated 40 years ago, and you know, lager wasn't the dominant category, you
no,
know, back in the day. And so there's nothing to say that IPA can't be as popular as lager is now in 15, 20 years, because everything always has its little, you know, moment in the sun. And I think we just need to get more people to drink it. You know, I think some of the mainstream guys that have brought out better beers over the last decade or so because of craft and what it's done, and created that kind of more discerning drinker, or just people who want to have something that's better. But I think at Brewdog, when I joined, it was the mission, which has been the same from day one, is make people as passionate about great craft beer as we are. Actually, we're less saying the great craft beer and just saying great beer, because you know it's just good, it's just great beer. But at the same time, I do get how, you know, talking about better beer can be a bit of a barrier to people who don't want to be told that you're better than they are because you're classing yourself drinking a better beer. So, you know, that's why I'm kind of like, there's a time and a place for every beer in the world, and an occasion. It's just trying to show people that there's lots of occasions for craft, and it's not as scary as you might think it is, you know?
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, don't get me wrong. I drink at my local rugby club, and it's Carling or Carling. So so you know, those are the two choices.
Quite Carling then, yeah?
Yeah. So and you know, I'll drink it and have a thoroughly good day usually. So yeah, no, you're right. There's a beer for every occasion. I think I really wanted to just pick your brains, if you don't mind, because it's something that I know you've done a lot of talking about, because you know a bit about it, and that's no and low. And just what I mean, obviously, Brewdog have done their fair share of, you know, entering that category as well. It certainly seems like it's a growth category. What do you think?
Oh yeah, it's huge. I think it's I can't I know this is going out late, but what is it, 8:40 on a Tuesday, when we were both saying how it's the busiest year ever,
Yeah.
coming back after Christmas. But I can't remember the stats and the numbers, but I think when lockdown first hit, No and Low didn't grow in the same way that alcohol grew, so it did slow. And then I think once June hit, it was back in triple digit growth in the off trade. So I think it was, people realised, you know what, if lockdown's here for 3 or 4 weeks, I'm going to fill the fridge with booze. I'm going to have some gin. I'm going to have a thoroughly nice time at home. I think when people realised it was here to stay, oh, hang on, I'm not quite sure I can sustain this this level of beer intake or alcohol intake. So I think it's definitely here to stay. I think, you know, the mindset of the younger demographic is not as it might have been for me and you. You know, this isn't. I think the misconception with Low and No is that people are choosing to drink No and Low because they don't want to drink, and that's not the case. It's basically replacing you drink 3 or 4 times a week. You now just want to drink 2 times a week, but you still want something that tastes like the beer or the gin that you love. And I think the quality of No and Low, not just with Brewdog and Punk AF and Nanny State and Boss AF as well, but so many other great tasting No and Low beers out there. And I think people are just looking for that substitute. It's like we have vegan Mondays, or, you know, you might have meat-free days and things like that. People now just want to have something that means they're not having as much alcohol all the time. So
Yeah.
it's mindful consumption rather than abstinence. And I think that's where the opportunity is huge. And it's a younger demographic that's driving it they're not as engaged with alcohol as they were, and they'd rather have a picture outside their gym with a green juice than they would be on, I say Wakefield again, but Wakefield High Street at 2 a.m. after drinking loads of Jaeger bombs. You know, that mentality has shifted, and social media has driven a lot of that. And people don't want to be seen. They don't want to give people the opportunity to film them intoxicated. So they're really careful and careful about what they drink. And then, you know, we've grown up with alcohol advertising that's no longer there as much as it used to be. You know, similar to the cigarettes of the 80s, sponsoring Benson Hedges Masters in snooker or whatever it might have been. That's, you know, so you can see like alcohol's gone through the same. So this younger demographic, they're not as engaged as maybe we were, but also older people. There's, you know, I think the on-trade opportunity for No and Low is huge, because if you can convince someone that the pub can facilitate your non-alcoholic experience with something better than lime and soda, then actually, you know, when we all get back to the office and the pubs are open, can people who would normally just go straight home, they actually come out for an hour and they have a great non-alcoholic gin and tonic, and they happily pay for it. They don't want to, they're not coming to the pub after work to socialise to just spend £2 on a soft drink. They're happy to spend the same as we spend on beer, spirits and wine. They just don't want the alcohol, but they still want to be included in the group. So I think the opportunity is huge. We've got a little bit of work to do on the serve. So you've got to make sure it feels like it's worth the £5, £5.50 that everyone else is paying. You've got to make sure people can see that it's available. You know, we need to not have these no and low beers hidden behind the orange juice cartons in the bottom of the fridge. You know, and you don't need to have a blackboard behind the bar telling people that you've got Carling, Carlsberg, Kronenberg. Other beers are available, by the way, on the beer lists. You need to tell people the stuff that they know that they can't see, or they can't obviously see. So I don't need to be told what your lager range is because I'm going to walk to the bar and see it. You know, when touch wood things get back to normal. But tell me what the stuff that I can't see and what the stuff that's not advertised well and merchandised well. And if you've got a lunch deal, put your non-alcoholic drinks on it. Because, you know, a lot of people during the day, how many times, I mean, it's doing Nicholson's, you know, pay an extra £1 to have Peroni with your drink of beer and a sandwich deal or whatever it might be. But actually, your no and low beer should be on there all day long.
Yeah.
So, you know, and then ranging as well, you know, massively passionate about the ranging when it comes to no and low. So taking beer, because that's my kind of expertise and passion, but you don't need another Me Too IPA in the fridge if you've got 4 IPAs on draft. It's not, you know, you might as well get your drinkers to drink draft and make sure all the bottles in your fridge have got a roll, and that you'll cater and you'll have a much more memorable experience for people who are looking for low and no if you cater for it than just someone who decides to grab a can out of the fridge. And most pubs will be doing like 2 cans a week with that beer in the fridge. It'll be turning over slowly. So just take it out, let them drink draft and put something in that's different. Have a non-alcoholic lager, have a non-alcoholic IPA, you know, small beer, a great brewery, you know, really cool looking prohibition bottles. Put one of those beers in the fridge at 2.1 for someone who, you know, wants to stay out for maybe a couple but doesn't want to have a pint of 5.2% punk or whatever it might be. So I think no and low is huge. I think it'll grow. We're miles behind like other countries in Europe and stuff in terms of mix of, like, I think Spain's at like something like 14% of beer is non-alcoholic.
Right.
Just, their culture's just like nip to the bar, have some tapas, have a non-alcoholic beer, chat to your friends, go back to work. Now we'll never get there, but we can definitely get further than the 1.3% we're at the minute. So I think ranging, merchandising, quality of products is amazing. So many cool breweries doing some amazing things we know and love.
I think I did a bit of an experiment where I went back in the Brains days when low and no was kind of a, you know, emerging market, and I thought, well, I want to go out and see how many nights out I can have, or I can go and drink no alcohol beers, and I was in Newbury, and there's some great pubs, and you know, you realise that things are changing. When I went into a bar and I said, do you have any low or no alcohol beers? And he said, well, what style do you want? And it wasn't just, he said, we've got stout, we've got this, we've got that, you know, and it was like, wow, this is great. And I remember Adnam's Ghost Ship, the alcohol-free version. It's a bloody great beer.
One of the best.
You know, and I remember being in, I can't remember the pub I was in with a few mates, and they were like, what are you drinking? I'll try it. Back when you could share your glass with people, by the way, back in the day. And oh yeah, it's a nice beer, that. Oh, what is it? It's alcohol free. Really? You know, and it's one of those beers that actually it's a really great beer that you can drink. You can opt to drink whether you're out on a night out drinking alcohol or not. So
yeah, we're speaking to a couple of events and festivals, and, you know, looking to get some beer into some like high capacity events where the mindset would normally be, this is booze infused party time, but actually I'm kind of like, just trying to get one partner to take a punt on putting alcohol free on keg within that environment, because how many times do you think someone just feels like they're forced into that pint because they're in a round, or they just want to take a break, but drink options are so terrible. They don't want a can of Coke or Pepsi or, you know, Dr. Pepper. Lots of other soft drink brands that are available. But if you had a pint of alcohol free, suddenly you're stood watching your music or your sport, but you've got the same as everybody else around you. You've got a great tasting liquid in a pint glass. You know, the only thing that's missing is alcohol. But so I'm keen to try and get something like that away, where you know you've got a punk AF tap at a quite high profile music festival, just to see how many kegs we could go through, because I think there's a market for it. Because it's never going to sell as much as your beer lines, obviously. But if you could do 3-4% of your total volume going for alcohol free, I think that's a massive story.
Yeah, and now that you've got beers like yourselves that are alcohol free that taste great, you know, how many times have you gone out as the designated driver, or just decided not to drink, and you know you're just gassed up on Coke or you know lemonade or whatever, and you just want to have a beer, and it's really really tricky. So I'd say there's a lot of people out there now who are drinking soft drinks because it's the only option available to them, um, who would probably opt for it. And I know I'd, you know, like an in between, if you are on a bit of a session with friends and whatever, and you want to break, you know, you can still have a pint in your hand that tastes great. So, well, hopefully somebody will see this video, and you know, you'll get that opportunity. And
I mean, how many times does someone in your group, I don't know, come out after work or after a meeting, and you're in the pub, and you know their car's parked at a train station, they've got to go home to, so they have a pint because they've got a 1 hour journey home, but quite rarely they don't want to have any more.
yeah,
But after they've had that first one, they could stay for another hour because they don't want to not be with people. They don't want, like, obviously some people do, but they don't want to go home. They just don't want to sit in a group of people drinking glasses of wine, pints of beer, and gin and tonics, and have a Coke or a Pepsi or a lime and soda in a really inferior glass and just feel like they're losing out and they're not part of the group.
yeah,
And you know, I think the opportunity is huge. I'm a big advocate and passionate fan of no and low, and I just think you know it's got a space within pubs. And I think you know those that are switched on are the ones that are putting 3 or 4 beers in the fridge rather than just you know one dusty bottle of Caliber that's not even in the fridge. You know that Gene comes in every Friday at 7 o'clock for 2 bottles, and that's about it. So. I think there's a huge opportunity, and I think the more people that take a punt on putting it on draft, I think that will make a difference as well. It's just the mentality as a pub manager. I know it from running a pub. If you don't change that keg 2 or 3 times a week, you don't think it's selling. But actually, if you can be doing 40 or 50 pints a week of alcohol free, those 40 or 50 pints, they're probably doing a lot more for your business than some of the 300 pints of Australia or Peroni that are going through.
yeah. So, and you've not got dead space behind the bar. You're filling that space with something else, you know. So no,
yeah.
I'm with
just
you.
Being brave, you know, make sure you've got breadth in your beer range and catering for as many different people as you physically can.
Yeah, yeah. So what then? Obviously, we've talked about a lot about beer. Your business is a fairly scale business now with pubs and hotels and breweries across the world. What's the next step for Brewdog?
Well, Brewdog Las Vegas has been signed, so I'm sure everyone's seen the pictures of that. Jesus. Yeah, get married by Elvis while you're drinking Elvis juice, I think is the story on that one, which seems a bit surreal. But I mean, the thing with Brewdog is James is quite open about what the business is doing. He's so transparent, and yeah, you know, I think we're in discussions about 40 new bars globally. So from memory, Sydney, Vegas, Barcelona opened, I think recently. Got a good site in Wapping that's on the cards as well, which is going to be, I think I've got this right, Brewdog. It's going to be called Brewdog and Friends, which is the same as a subscription service. Yeah. But the idea is that you can send your brewer to do like a 3 or 4 week residency, and they'll brew their beers from their brewery. So, you know, you might get someone like Modern Times in San Diego, rather than ship beer over from Modern Times, just send the brewer over. He can do kind of a 3 week, you know, great education for him, you know, going out and seeing the beer culture of London, but at the same time brewing all the Modern Times beers on the kit in Wapping.
Brilliant.
Guest taps of a Modern Times kind of not contract brew, because that sounds a bit naff, but genuinely brewed by someone who works for Modern Times, just on a kit that's 6,000 miles away in East London. So I'm excited for that one, and it's in a really iconic, like old electrical plant or something. I think it used to be a restaurant, but it looks amazing. So we've got those planned, and then the on-trade's reopening. Lost Lager's big focus for us. We've got a beer potentially called Planet Pale coming. The Brewdog and Friends subscription service has had really good feedback. The Tony's Chocolonely collab's gone in that box that's going out this month, which,
Right, I've got a box coming this month, so yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I think, because I have to subscribe for this box as well. I don't get it for free, so I think I just got my £10 Brewdog and Friends voucher to spend in a Brewdog bar on email today. So I'll be taking that into trade next week. But yeah, no, that's a really positive for us. And the Lost Forest. I don't know if people have seen the story on the Lost Forest, but I remember, digress a little bit here, but I remember when I was at Mitchells and Butlers and Brewdog took me up to Ellon for the AGM. So for those that don't know, we've got now we've got 200,000 equity punk, which are the people that have invested in through crowdfunding, and it's the world's most successful crowdfunding campaign ever. And then every year at the annual General Mayhem, the AGM, essentially a beer festival for 12,000 people. And James and Martin do an hour on stage at the start. But I remember when they launched the distilling company, they put a big screen said it was the Fever Tree advert, and it was the one that's like, if 2/3 of your gin and tonic are tonic, why are you not using the best tonic? And then the next slide was, if 2/3 of your gin and tonic is tonic, why aren't you making it yourself? So we'd started making our tonic without buying it from anyone else. So I think with the carbon negative story, rather than try and use other people's forests to plant trees, we've gone and bought 10,000 acres of land in the Scottish Highlands. And I mean, I've seen the videos, the place is phenomenal, and it's going to be the biggest reforestation project the UK's ever seen. So it's over 10,000 acres of land. It's bigger than 17 countries. We're going to plant, I think it's up to 5 million trees over the next kind of number of years. And there's going to be some eco lodges there. There's going to be 50 eco lodges that you can book. There's going to be kayaking. There's going to be a distillery on site. There's going to be adventures. It's basically going to encourage tourism to go to this place and explore and see the land as it should be, but at the same time just watch it develop as Brewdog owns it and restores it, and these trees and what's it going to look like in 10 years versus what it looks like today. Essentially, it's just a barrow land. Yeah. So I'm really, really excited to see where that goes. But mainly, I'm just really excited to just get the pubs open, I think. And I've got a lot of friends in the industry like yourself, brewery owners, bar owners, people who work for the likes of Mitchells and Butlers and Green King. And we just need to get these next few weeks out of the way and then come back roaring after the government have given us the toughest time in my history of being in pubs.
Yeah.
It's just been ridiculous, really.
It's been tough, and we've all definitely done the hard yards. So let's. I think for me, it's about getting out there and supporting and enjoying it. So I know.
Get back out in the pub for a pint of cask. It doesn't look. I mean, you're a Brains boy, so everyone's been missing cask ale, and I think there's a massive opportunity for that to have a resurgence because it's not something you can replicate at home.
Yeah, and that's what pubs need to be good at now. And I've spoken about this on a couple of the videos, is that during all the lockdowns, people have built home bars, or they've become mixology experts, or they've done various things to make that home experience as good as they can. What the on-trade now needs to do is double down on the stuff that you can't do at home, and really make sure that the experience in the pub is an experience that you cannot replicate anywhere else. So and cask will play a huge part in that, I'm sure. So long may it continue. I love a pint of cask ale. It pays my pension still. So
even more so these days.
Yeah. But no, I appreciate you coming on. I endeavour to come and have a beer with you out in trade as soon as possible.
Yeah, a beer on me for everything that you've done with this group. So, long may it not continue, but definitely let me know when you're going to be in London or Yorkshire, and I'll try and make sure I'm in one of them.
I appreciate it, mate, and cheers.
Yeah, cheers. And also, thanks for letting me realise how you pronounce Guilo Brewery. because because without being out in trade, I just see pictures on social media without actually interacting with anyone to actually say the word name of the brewery out loud. So the session with Sean was the first time I'd actually heard anyone speak Guilo Brewery, so that was a result.
Well, I'm not necessarily saying I said it right, so don't quote me on it. He didn't correct me, so
It's Guilo Brewery forever now.
yeah, there we are. Well, good, and it was some good beer as well. So yeah, I'll definitely try that again while I'm out. But no, appreciate it, mate, and we will talk again very soon.
Yeah, all the best. Thanks, Ross.